So if you ever imagined how a Greek tragedy would look if it was set in feudal Japan, then this is it. Demons, also known as Shura, is the second feature by the experimental director Toshio Matsumoto. It released in 1971. Demons is a true descent into hell. I have to say that this is the darkest and most experimental samurai film I've ever seen. It's definitely just an exhausting and depressive experience, and there really is no going back once you've seen it. So let's get into it. The film begins with a colorful sun setting. It then transforms into this bleak black and white picture, which the rest of the film then looks like. In a way, it represents how the story is gonna go. So the story follows a once great warrior, but now he's a ronin, and he's named Gengobe. He has sold all of his property to repay the money that he owed. He's in love with a geisha girl, and she's to be married to a rich lord, unless someone pays 100 ryo for her liberty. He soon realizes that he's actually being played by this geisha girl and her husband. The rest of the film is him becoming hellbent on revenge. So, Demons is actually an adaptation of a play. It's a kabuki theater classic that's based on an episode of the famous 47 Ronin, a subject of many Japanese films. The movie itself is an alternate history that ties in with the historical events of the 47 Ronin. Here we get a bit of an anti-hero who belongs to the same clan, but he never actually interacts with them, nor do we see any of the other 47 Ronin appear. The tale of the 47 Ronin's vendetta is viewed as one of the most noble and heroic stories in Japan. Yet, this film shows a protagonist that just plunges into unimaginable dark places. And this kind of adds a bit of spice to the movie's sense of irony. There's no relatable characters or anyone to root for in this film. But still, you just get transfixed on this plot and you just can't look away once it gets going. Almost every character in this film is unsympathetic and devious. But I guess that's also part of this film's appeal. This is actually a very theatrical film. There's very few locations, most of it takes place indoors. There's also very few characters, and you could tell it was a tight budget. The acting itself is very theatrical. The full movie is in black and white besides the opening shot with the sun, and I view this as just a way to prepare the audience for the type of film that this is gonna be. And it takes place over the course of 2 nights, us never seeing the sun rise. All the scenes are filmed in these very confined and claustrophobic areas. It all works just to make you as paranoid as possible. When you watch this, you also get this strange sense of reality distortion. The editing has false starts, and there's several scenes that are repeated almost identically. The film actually begins with a dream sequence, and it somewhat foreshadows the events that are about to take place. This is a theme that plays out throughout the film. We get to see things unfolding only to realize that it was either a dream or a fantasy of certain characters. This could be a little confusing at times, and it does tend to break the fluidness of the narrative. Actually, there was even a time where I was just like, didn't I just see these people die 5 minutes ago? Just to have them die again in a similar way. It's very strange how they filmed this. The craziest thing about this film, though, is just how graphic the scenes of violence are. Like, there's one scene in particular that I couldn't believe they went that far. And anyone that watches this is gonna know what I'm talking about. You just simply don't see that in any film. And the visuals themselves just make everything more intense. And the black and white cinematography just enhances all the carnage on screen. We see characters illuminated against dark backgrounds, and they look almost like phantoms. And then you get this black blood just coming out of their wounds. It just makes all the violence more noticeable. This is a tale of vengeance, and it leads everyone involved falling into a dark abyss. There is no bright light at the end of the tunnel. Because of a mere 100 Ryo, these people have turned into demons, just like the title, and their lives become hell. It's really a depiction of the evil of money, but ultimately greed which drives everything. The main character Gengobi isn't a typical hero, and the only reason why anyone could root for him maybe just has to do with the fact that in this film, he's sort of an agent of justice, but he's still just a despicable character. It's easy just to hate all the characters involved in this, but at the same time it's also kind of difficult not to feel pity for them. It's really rare for just a film to make you feel this way. And this film is definitely not for everyone. It's extremely pessimistic, it doesn't offer a glimmer of hope, and it's not even an easy watch. But I'm gonna say it's worth it. I highly recommend it to anyone that's interested in film as an art form. I will say though, it is a long movie. It's over 2 hours and some of the dialogue could have been shaved off. For me, it took about an hour to get good, and it really dragged up into that point. It pays off though, as the next hour and 15 minutes is just pure insanity and quite the ride. The film knows exactly what it wants to be, brutal and unforgiving. It does this so much that it was even banned in the UK. This was mainly for its depressing tone and violent content, and for that one particular scene that's you're not gonna forget. But I think you're the one left to decide what the message is. When you watch this, you just feel the weight of the film just becoming heavier as it goes on. It gets progressively darker until ultimately all hell breaks loose. The last chapter is even named Hell, so it's very fitting. If you thought the ending of Sword of Doom was insane, then you've seen nothing. Also, the twist at the end was a nice touch. It makes the film go into a complete circle, and it adds to the overall hopeless feeling, as if it wasn't hopeless enough. It's a must-watch film for anyone that's serious about film, or for anyone that's in the mood for something that's more experimental. So, while definitely not a perfect film, it does drag in the beginning. Demon still managed to be a film that stands out, mainly due to its intense story, which progressively gets darker. Also, its interesting directing, and of course its intense mood and atmosphere. You have to see this just for its insane violence, and just how far this film is willing to go. It's amazing this even exists, and for those reasons, makes this one of the most memorable films I've seen in a while, and the reason why it would still be worth checking out today. Anyway, thanks for watching.